To watch more Bhagavad Gita discourse videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Okay, you must have been listening, not must have been, you were listening for quite a number of hours. I thought I would tell you, you may get up and then sit so that you will feel a little relaxation and refreshment. Get up and then sit. Now we are on the concluding part of the 3-day Global Bhagavad Gita Convention. My dear viewers, I would like to say in a very hearty manner that all of you who have been participating in these sessions are extremely blessed. A blessing that you should remember for the whole of your lifetime. You are more blessed than many other people in this world. This is a kind of a knowledge, I would like to call it a knowledge sharing festival. Nothing other than knowledge was communicated to you through the lectures that went on all these days. Sri Krishna himself says that at the end of the dialogue in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Sri Krishna himself said that whoever is able to understand this, read it, understand, and propagate it properly in the midst of my devotees and well-wishers, he is the most dear person to me. Nobody dearer was born, is there now, and will be born. He also gives blessings and compliments to the people who study this Bhagavad Gita, understand it, and who is able to explain it to the others, at least understand it, and shares in whichever manner he can. Now all of you have got a few sparks from Bhagavad Gita at least. I am sure you will honor them, value them, appreciate them, beyond everything, love them in the core of your heart. Mention about it to the others. You should be very grateful for the sponsors, the organizers of this program. They are all volunteers, our devotees and seekers of truth. It is not done by a professional team. All of them have been working, sometimes throughout night, etc., to conduct this program well. I think you should understand and appreciate their efforts and value them. If we are going to have another convention next year, I am sure that all of you will be participants in various degrees. Some of you will come forward to help conduct the program properly. Apart from the expense part of it, it requires a lot of endeavor, coordination and whatnot. A lot of technical skill also. All these things I thought of mentioning to you so that you will value what you have heard. After all, this is the 4th Global Bhagavad Gita Convention that we have been conducting. It is a fact of the history of the world. It will go into the documents of history that such a convention has been held. It is because of these conventions that anything good and great in this whole world has perpetuated itself. So I thought of mentioning this. Now I shall start the concluding address. All of you should get refreshed, have a smile and a laughter. Laughing and smiling the best way, I think it is the greatest tonic that we can think of having. I will recite a short prayer and invocation, and as usual we shall have the 3 Omkara chorus recitation so that our presence will be felt and we will be permeating through this chorus recitation to the entire globe, reaching them a kind of a welfare, a blessing for all the creatures and beings upon the earth. Close your eyes, interlock your fingers and put them on your lap. Sit comfortably erect Open the mouth as well as the heart and join me. I would like you to do so in a very hearty, wholehearted manner. All your forefathers will be happy that you are doing something like this today, and you were doing earlier also. And the succeeding generations will be looking at you with an ineffable degree of gratitude and glory. Here we go. Hari, 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 Om. That's. Oh, before chanting the Om, I thought I forgot it. I slipped it. I will recite a kind of an invocation. What is that slower? Madhya Hridaya Kashe Sadanandamayo Guruhu Udetu Satatam Samyak Ajnana Timirarunaha. Now we shall have the recitation. Harihi, Harihi. Hari, Hari Om Tat Sat. Jai Guru. Now all of you are looking for the concluding message. But a concluding message is that the whole listening and participation should not conclude in your heart and mind at all. The remembrance, the echo, the reverberation, the repeated exhortations, the many reminders that were pronounced, a number of revelations, pronouncements, promises, and whatnot. All these are contained in the great holy text, beautiful divine text called Bhagavad Gita. I want all these statements and pronouncements to be ringing in your ears and hearts. You should remember them, ponder over them, introspect over them, ruminate over them consistently, as a result of which your mind and heart will be enriched, your intelligence will be enlightened, and your whole inner personality will be empowered. For what? To live in this world confidently, to act and interact in this world in such a manner that your actions and interactions will be very effective and you will go forward. In order to go forward, you require the ability, the inner enlightenment to assimilate all kinds of inputs from the world and to generate the necessary outputs whenever required, so that you can go on interacting with this world successfully, effectively, gloriously, and beneficially. This is what Bhagavad Gita does. Arjuna came to the battlefield with 13 years of preparation, and yet he crumbled in front of Bhishma, Drona, and his own kith and kin. Nobody was there to help him. Krishna, the charioteer, took up the responsibility, addressed his grief on the one hand and fear on the other. Our convention subject is fearlessness and freedom. Bhagavad Gita discusses and delivers only these. Bhagavad Gita goes to a further extent of saying we are discussing and trying to deal with three factors. One is desire, another is hatred, The third is fear. Human mind itself is made up of three strands: desire, hatred, and fear. Sri Krishna throughout the dialogue discusses the ways and means of dealing with these three, sublimating them, and getting enriched every time. There is no fear, there is no desire, there is no hatred also. The mind becomes completely free of these constrictions. You should understand that these constrictions are imposed by the mind and the intelligence. Bhagavad Gita is a meant to intellectual pursuit. It is meant to get relief and freedom from the shackles of the mind and the intelligence. Our shackles are not from outside. They are caused and imposed and preserved by our own mind and our own intelligence. The mind is deluded. The intelligence is ignorant. When the delusion of the mind and the ignorance of the intelligence both are addressed and set right, you become a full human personality who will enjoy, who will float in the ecstasy of freedom, fearlessness, in the ecstasy of inner fulfillment, spiritual abundance. Bhagavad Gita promises what? I would like to tell you, it promises what? Many people do not know. It is not dealing with negative forces alone. It tells you where lies what. My dear man, you understand that you are not the body. You have a body. Who is that person? Who is that identity who has this body? I am, and I have the body. Understand that I is the sole focus of life. Everything is from the I, in the I, for the I, and by the I. The entire world falls in the category of mine, my body, my mind, my intelligence, my ego, my car, my house. Everything is contained by the mind, by mind. The I remains hidden. Sri Krishna makes you think of the I and discover it if possible. At least try to understand it in a better measure. This I holds the key for everything in this world. When you realize the I, you will find there is no second factor in this world at all. The entire world comes under the category of object, and I is the only subject. The I is the witness. You are the witness of the entire universe and creation. The witness never becomes the witnessed, and the witness can never become the witness. And you are witnessing the whole universe. Tell me, my dear souls, with your intelligence, what is the measure, majesty, magnitude, and magnificence of the witness? Is it something small? Your body is limited. Body is limited. But the mind, which is not a part of the body, though it is associated with the body, it is not matter and energy. It is that mind that perceives the whole universe. Where the whole universe is imprinted by the mind, pictured by the mind, imaged by the mind, can that mind be small, or it has to be bigger than the biggest? This is an answer I would like all of you to give. I wish I were present by your side to listen to your answer. Get away from the idea of limitation. Get away from the idea of an entrapped, body entrapped person. No, no, no. We are not the body. We have a body. And what is that body different factor? That is what we call consciousness, sentience. The word consciousness cannot be described properly. It is not a matter product or a substance. All that we can say is it is a presence that makes you conscious of other things as well as itself. I am conscious of myself. I am conscious of other things. First of all, I say I am, and thereafter I say other things are. That is what is called consciousness. Understand this consciousness. All your fears are arising from the mind, arising from the intelligence, caused by the seeming world. Nothing can reach the I. The I remains the witness, witness, witness. You are the Sakshi, the witness. Make your judgment on that basis. When you are aggrieved, you say, I am aggrieved. Even in the grief, I am as much as I am in happiness. The I-ness and the amness do not change at all. I was happy many number of times. I was unhappy many number of times. Neither the happiness nor the unhappiness has tainted me. I remain the same I to say I am. Tell me whether what I say is impossible to understand or difficult to understand. It's a very simple proposition. Our intelligence is working on reason and rationality. Bhagavad Gita is a rational exposition of the human personality, human life, human interaction with the world, and presenting to you a beautiful way of thinking, a way of understanding, and a way of realization. Put it on. Desire is the cause of everything. Sri Krishna refers to desire. When it is intercepted, it becomes hatred, and fear also arises. The verse, if you want to know, is 37 of the 3rd chapter. Kama yesha, krodha yesha, rajoguna samudbhavaha, mahashano, mahapapma, buddhyena mihavairinam. This desire arises in you. What for you desire is immaterial. Desire is your own mind's creation, and you have to treat it in the mind level itself. Never come to me and complain saying that I have a desire for many things and many things are my problem. No, your problem is your own mind. All problems are generated by the mind. They are resolved by the intelligence. So he says, this is desire. When it is interfered with, it becomes hatred. It becomes hatred. Now, how to overcome it? Evam buddhva, evam buddhe, param buddhva. You have to understand that which is superior to the buddhi. Buddhi means intelligence. I showed you a part of presentation yesterday. In that presentation, and that sketch clearly showed, our senses are superior to the objects of the world. Mind is still superior to the senses. Intelligence is still superior. And something superior to the intelligence is there. That is what you refer to as the I. Reduce it. He speaks about the desire and hatred as Mahashano, Mahapapma. It is a glutton. It can eat any extent like a blazing fire. And you have to control it. Where is the desire located? In the senses, mind and intelligence. Not beyond that. Our self is absolutely pure, immaculate, resplendent, luminous, effulgent. No desire can lurk in the self at all. Understand that you are the self and therefore absolutely pure. This understanding will enable you to overcome fear as well as to overcome anything else in this world. Gita is giving us a beautiful promise. What is that promise? If you can go to the 6th chapter, in verse number 22, Krishna has explained it very clearly. I would like you to remember this verse as a take-home affair. Yam labdhva chaparam labham manyate nadhikam tadaha yasmin sthito na dukkhena guruna api vichalyate. Yam labdhva chaparam labham manyate nadhikam tadaha. Bhagavad Gita gives you points to an attainment. What is that attainment? Your own I. Understanding the I, abiding in the I, inhering in the I, and resultantly enjoy the profusion, the abundance, the fullness, and the ecstasy arising from it. It is closer to you than your body, than your mind, than your intelligence, than even your ego. Everything else is distant from you. Your own newborn child, married partner, whomever you think of, all are separate from us. This is closer to you than your own body, mind, intelligence, and ego. And what do you have to do? You have to understand it. You don't have to get at it. Go there. It is yourself. The distance is zero. So all that you have to do is you have to understand and realize it. Now, this attainment, when you have manyate nadhikam tataha, you will clearly know that there is nothing greater or superior to you. So you will be getting the super greatest attainment. Not only that, yasmin sthito na dukkhena guruna bhi vijalyade. After getting seated in your own self, whatever may be the assailment from the world, affectation from the world, guruna bhi, by even the worst or the greatest of suffering, you will not be shaken. What more do you want, my dear souls? Tell me. Here is an attainment which gives you, which fills you with abundance, fullness, and ecstasy, fulfillment. And with that attainment, when you start living, moving, and interacting in this world, any kind of a confrontation, discomfiture, or otherwise will not the least affect you or shake you up. What more do you want? Is there anything that your mind looks for, intelligence looks for, heart is yearning for? So this is what Bhagavad Gita tells you. Now this is only in the state of absorption and meditation. Don't think like that. Bahyasparasheshu asaktatma vindatya atmani yat sukham sa brahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnute. Initially you can have it in your meditational, absorptional hours. But suppose you start culturing it, you start practicing it, trying to understand it more and more, and mental, intellectual orientation and enrichment, they start growing and growing. You will reach a condition where sukham akshayam ashnude. If I have time, I shall explain it. Otherwise, at least take it as a pointer. The words used are akshayam sukham ashnude, endless, interminable, comfort and happiness, extreme happiness you enjoy in the form of eating. Eating is with the mouth. So it is not a silent and an absorptional inner happiness. It is also a functional and interactional happiness which you start getting from all quarters. The entire world will be different. When the mind becomes ecstatic, whatever you see, they will become ecstatic. Purne manasi sampurnam jagat sarvam sudhadravaihi. When the mind becomes full and complete, the entire world you will find is covered with nectar. So the treatment is to your mind, to your mind. Let the mind become pure. Let the mind become refined. Let the mind become ecstatic. Let the mind become effulgent. You will find that goes on expressing, enfolding, and comprehending everything, the whole universe before you. The universe is not standing outside. It is a matter of experience for you. The experiencing mind, when it gets transformed, everything gets transformed. This is what all of you will have to understand. What is it that Bhagavad Gita expects us to do in a kind of a formula? Do you have anything to say about it? If you ask me, Krishna says, and your Swamiji also says here now. What is that? Be very clear. Very, very clear about it. Never look to any outside factors. All your complaints are arising from your own mind. All your disability, inability, it is lurking within your body, in the mind. Mind is the source of everything. The source of experience, the source of all kinds of action, interaction, interactional experiences, everything. So, this is verse number 23 of 5th chapter. Shakno dihaiva yasodhum prak sharira vimokshanad kama krodhodbhavam vegam sayukta sasukhi naraha. Sayukta. That person is the most integrated person. Integrated. The word integrated has got a very special meaning in spirituality and the Bhagavad Gita context. What is that? We have got a personality in which I had already explained. We have the senses on the body. We also have the mouth, the tongue. Then inside we have the mind, then the intelligence, then the ego. Thereafter the I, the Atma, the self. They are always uncoordinated, not at all integrated. So our senses should be integrated with the mind. The mind is employing the senses. Those the senses should be sublimated by the mind, connected to the mind. The mind should be guided by the intelligence. And this intelligence should be equally associated with a properly maturated ego. Then the intelligence must also reflect constantly the glory and the greatness of the self. When all these are together, they are sufficiently integrated. One merging with the other, working collectively, uniformly with the other, that becomes the integrated personality. Generally, people are not so. So he says, such a person is integrated yogically, sa sukhi naraha. He is the happy person. Who is the happy person? What all things do you have to muster for it? How many houses you have to procure? How many children you should have? Where should be your employment? Do you have to book for a travel to the moon? The answer is no. Shaknodi haivayasodham prak sharira vimokshanad. Before shedding your body, Shaknodi haivayasodham. He who is able to withstand, forbear, tolerate, live in harmony with what? Kama krodhodbhavam vegam. The urge, the turbulence, the agitation, that passion and prejudice constantly trigger. How many times shall I repeat these words? You only have to be focused in your mind to find out the mind is producing passion and prejudice, kama and krodha. And all the urges, all the triggering, all the consequences are following from these. He who is able to watchfully, not so much. No. Don't be so much turbulent. I want to be patient. I want to be placid. I want to be comfortable. Let me never get agitated. Life should be beautiful. Living should be alluring. Don't make me unstable. Don't be eaten up by whatever you are seeing or hearing. So try to consciously sublimate the kama and krodha. Whoever is able to do it, he becomes comfortable and happy. My dear souls, is it difficult? Why should it be difficult? It is something arising from you, subsiding in you. That for which the whole mind, the whole locus is your own mind. Why should it be troublesome for you? Out of the 24 hours of the day, 7 or 8 hours you deduct for sleep. The remaining 16, 17 hours you have enough time to be watchful. And by so doing, what do you get? You get a comfortable, an enthusiastic, a very flexible, assimilative mind. Such a mind is a possession, is a gift for all your action and interaction. If today you are able to do this much of work, tomorrow you will be able to do this much. Because the mind is relaxed, you can apply the full mind. There is no agitation, there is no discomfort. So flexibility increases. The power of assimilation grows. Sublimation goes. Enrichment goes on increasing. So this is a very beautiful progressive path. What are these passions and prejudices? How do they enter us? Is it that something we invite and we cultivate and all that? No. This is what every person is born with, he says. A very wonderful statement, very clear. I don't know whether anywhere else in this world a literature pronounces it in this manner. Ihaiva ichhadvesha samuthena dvandvamohena bharata sarvabhutani sammoham sargeyanti parantapa. When I read it first in Bhagavad Gita, I was so surprised. What? What? Is this what our life is? What? He says, Sarva Bhutani. All the beings in this world, not only human beings, the cow, the bull, the tiger, the lion, the rhinoceros, the rat, the cat, the bee, the mosquito. Is Bhagavad Gita universal? Yes, a million times. See the assertion of Bhagavad Gita. Sarva Bhutani, all beings upon the earth, even elsewhere. Sammoham, they undergo a delusion. My dear souls, your life has started from delusion. No wonder that you are all suffering. We will continue to suffer because we are a product of delusion. Product of delusion. Sarva Bhutani Sammoham Sarge Yanti. Right at the time of birth, everybody is subjected to undergo a delusion. What is the delusion? Ichhadvesha samuttena. Just like the fire is blazing, Ichha and Dvesha. The word Ichha and Dvesha, they have been used about 18 times in Bhagavad Gita. Love and hatred. Even a newborn child, put something sweet on the tongue. The child will do this. Put something bitter. How does the child do so? So he says, Ichhadvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata. Here in the speeches we spoke quite a lot about dvandvas, pairs of opposites. All the pairs of opposites arise from Ichha Dvesha. They trigger Ichha and Dvesha, love and hatred. So he says, from love and hatred has arisen Dvandva Moha, the delusion called Dvandvas. We start dividing things, good and bad, virtue and vice, body and soul, God and world, hell and heaven, today and tomorrow, day and night, profit and loss. All these are Dvandvas, pairs of opposites. These words are whose? Our words. Whose creations? Our own creations. Everything arises from the love and hate. These two arising from our own inner being. Sarva Bhutani Sammoham Sargeyanti Parantapa. So my dear souls, we have no choice. Everyone search your heart and mind. Ichha and Dvesha, love and hatred, they have emerged from your own being. 10 people visit your house. You have looked at them. Suddenly you come to the conclusion, 5 of them are all right, 4 not so. Who told you? Why are you dividing them? All the 10 people have 2 hands and 2 feet and 1 head and 2 eyes. They are all human beings. They alike listen to you, hear you, understand you. If you give a cup of tea, they take it very well. They say thanks and go. How do you say that 5 people or 6 people I like and 4 I dislike? Is there any meaning? No meaning. Similarly, you go to a shop, a few articles are there, you will say, this I don't like, this I like. What is this? Likes and dislikes. Shall I tell you my story? Sometimes I say like this. What is that? After many years, I have learned not to do what I like and to do what I dislike. When I am ready to do what I dislike, and when I am ready not to do what I like, the whole world is won over by me. Our trouble is our likes and dislikes, our Ichha and Dvesha. That is what drives you every time, everywhere. You will marry a girl or a boy loving each other. After some time, things become different. And the same people may start saying, or will start, I wish they don't say, that, oh, it was then. I asked an old lady, she was talking to me about her husband. She used to come for my lectures in Delhi. So many years she has been here. So I asked, I would like to see your husband once. Can you ask him to come? He is not interested in all this. But if you tell him, after all, you are married in love, Swamiji, that is an old story. See, if you have a wife, the wife has a certain good benevolent interest. Is it not natural for the husband to take to it so that their friendship will get taken? Even this practical point of view, you husbands and wives don't have. See, if your wife likes something, you also like it. Then both of you are greater, more together. So, love and hatred, love and hate, love and hate. Sarvabhutani sammoham sargeyanti parantapa. And then he says in the 19th shloka, Ihaivatayirjidas sargo esham samye sthidam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmat brahmanite sthida. See, this time in the Gita convention, we have been really explaining the message of Bhagavad Gita. 3 conventions were held. Now, many of you are participants for the 4th time. So we have taken the freedom and liberty to explain Bhagavad Gita in closer, deeper, and more touching terms. This is one such. Ihaivatayirjitas sargo. The literal meaning is, by such people, this entire creation is won over. Yesham samye sthidam manaha. Whose mind is sufficiently abiding in samya, evenness, equanimity, equipoise, evenness. If you are able to do what you dislike, and if you are able to forgo what you like, I think you have won over the world. Because the entire world objects can create in you only these dvandvas. Sukha and dukkha are the only dvandvas, creation of the world. If you are able to evenize them in your life, when sukha dukkhas subside and subside and subside, the self will become pronounced. The lesser of sukha dukkhas, the greater of the self. The whole mind will be subjectivized, spiritualized, divinized, spiritualized. Everything will be resplendent, effulgent, luminous. What a beautiful state is this. Sukha and dukkha are almost like influence of the objects in you. When the influence reduces, gets sublimated, the subject comes to the focus. As Bhagavad Gita says, Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasha upajayade. In all the pores of your body, the spiritual radiance of the self will start oozing. You will become lighter, loftier, more and more subjective. The subject part, which subject? Which is the witness of the whole world. Ihaivatayirjidas sargo esham samye sthidam manaha. Whose mind is seated in that samya, that evenness. Nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmat brahmanite sthida. Not only they have won over the world, their mind will be abiding in Brahman, the supreme reality. Why? The supreme reality called God is actually equal, even. He doesn't make any distinction at all as sinner or virtuous man. No, not at all. So because God is equal, when your mind is established in equalness, you are established in God. See, this is the arithmetical presentation of truth. What jugglery is there, you tell me? Make your mind even. You have won over the world. You have attained the supreme reality, Brahman. Understand it very well. This kind of a practice, when you take up, and when you start growing and growing, is it something hidden in the heart? Is it something to be realized only in meditative absorptional state, as I was raising? Yesterday I spoke to you about Sthita Prajna and Sthitadhi. So I am not repeating it. In the state of absorption, without any kind of an external association, you can rejoice over this inner abundance. But when you wake up, you are interacting. The world is plural, infinitely so. So you will have to come across your friends, non-friends, sometimes very rarely inimical people also. Some are neutral. There is a shloka in Bhagavad Gita, Suhran mitrari udasina madhyastha dveshya bantushu sadhushvapicha papeshu samabuddhir vishishyade. Krishna makes sure that you are very good and dexterous in the matter of handling interpersonal relationships. On the other side, very different people will be there. You are the same. You cannot say, I will not look at him. I will look at this person alone. You cannot say that. So you have to be flexible enough to successfully conduct yourself with regard to all kinds of people. He who is able to do so, he excels in yoga, he says. So let us understand that even when you wake up from this wonderful inner absorptional state and you are interactive, this interactional sublimity goes on increasing. There is maturity in you, sublimity in you, loftiness, a kind of an exaltation you start feeling to such an extent that you don't depend upon external factors at all. What you need, you derive from yourself. So you are full. So your activity is more a kind of a benefit and blessing to the others than a demand for yourself. Selfishness vanishes from you. Selflessness grows in you. Instead of being a mere familial man, a family man, you become a societal person, a universal person. So he says, Kama krodha viyuktanam yadinam yatachetasam abhito brahmanirvanam vartade vididatmanam. These slokas, if you learn, you will understand how scientifically the whole truth is presented here. And the truth about what? About your own personality, your own potential, your own possibilities, and your own perfection. Nothing to anything outside. It is all concerning the human individual alone. This sloka is 26. 5th chapter, 26. Kama krodha viyuktanam yadinam yatachetasam. Kama krodha viyuktanam. Those people who are given to inner restraint, refinement, inner sublimity, sublimation, inner enrichment, elevation, expansion. Such people, Kama Krodha Viyuktanam, when they become free of the stranglehold of passion and prejudice, love and hatred, desire and hate, when they are freed from that hold and they become quite austere and ascetic, Abhito Brahmanirvanam Vartade Viditatmanam. The knowledge of the self starts, it is a fountain like. Even now, who is living? Tell me. Is your body living or you say, I am living? I am living. Who is that am? Who is that living? Is it an epithet of the body? Is it not matter, energy, aggregate? The inert body is animated by a presence, by a spiritual living presence. That is the one you refer to as I. So the I and the am refer to something different from the body. You start knowing it very well. Now it is a concept. Maybe we have exposed it to you. It remains as an exposition very recently had. You will start reflecting upon it and proceeding after it. And there will come a time when you become pure, wholesome, sufficiently reflective, very lofty, spiritual, quite expansive. All the negative elements drop from you and positive elements fill you. In that case, Abhito Brahma Nirvanam Vartade. Bah, Abhitaha, all around. Brahma Nirvanam. The literal meaning is redemption born out of the supreme reality called Brahman, knowing it. Vartade. It is present, it is pulsating. Vidita Atmanam. By virtue of his knowledge of this I. What is this I? It is not that you have it in the few hours of meditation and absorption, while you are walking, while you are breathing, while you are living, while you are interacting, either with persons or with places or with circumstances or with events. Anywhere and everywhere, it becomes a subjective possession. It is not like your mobile that you have to take it along with you. No. It is an inner possession which cannot release you or leave you. It has become one with you, as a result of which, wherever you go, you are encircled by Brahma Nirvana. My dear souls, are you with me? Are you with me? What is this? Are we born to be mentally poor, impoverished? Don't we have an intelligence to think and reflect upon? What are these books for? What are these for? A book is meant for reading. Reading is to understand. Understanding is for assimilation. Assimilation is for enrichment. Enrichment is for fulfillment. Otherwise, don't read. When you read, you should understand. When you understand, you should become. Be true to the understanding. Follow it. Incorporate it in your life. Assimilate it. Get enriched by it, so that the understanding does not become separate from you. There is no jugglery here. It requires what? That loyalty you should have. I must be loyal to my reading. I must have the fidelity necessary for the purpose, the straightforwardness. I don't want anything else from you. Be open, be true, be loyal. We are holding this convention with that kind of a sincerity in our heart. There is no other purpose. There is a great knowledge the world needs. Everyone needs a self-examination, a self-evaluation. We are gripped by corona. In 1918, more than 100 years ago, we had a Spanish flu, I was told, and 50 million people died in the world. More than 500 million people contracted the infection. Don't think anything is new in this world. The world has remained the same Panjabhutas. Millions of years ago, even now it is so. We are not born here as human beings to be afraid of. We are to see things squarely, interact with them. And we should always be majestic and magnificent, exalted in our perception. This corona is not produced by us. We will see whether we can have any countermeasures. That is up to our intelligence and up to our scientists. We shall do so. But we are not going to misunderstand it. We are not paying any rent for the earth to live in this world. Nobody is paying any rent. If rent is taken, it is by people, not by the earth. Everything we are enjoying. This world is not ours. We are of the world. We cannot dictate terms to the earth. Certainly not. We will look after ourselves with whatever medical measures are there, safeguards are there, everything is all right. Ultimately, let us recognize it is Earth's own creation, nature's own creation. And nature will have to give us the balance and the safeguards. Let us not be afraid of it. The world has seen similar crisis earlier also. We shall survive, we shall survive by the glory of our heart, by the glory of our heart, by the glory of our heart, by the glory of our understanding. Abhito Brahmanirvanam Vartade Viditatmanam. All that you have to remember while going home is that you have a personality, molded and shaped and preserved by nature. The air we breathe is not ours. The air is there, nostrils are there, lungs are there, they do their function. Right from there you have to start. Understand it very clearly understand it. So know very clearly that we are not the body, we have the body. And what is that I? Every day try to spend about 20 minutes or so reflecting upon this I. This is one point that I would like you to do. The whole process becomes complete when we have the full vision. Krishna says, what is the full vision? Shall I tell you? Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va yadi va dukham sa yogi paramo mataha. I spoke to you, others also must have spoken to you about Sukhadukhas are the only dvandvas which result from the entire world variety. Sukha and Dukha are not created by objects, they are created by the mind. When the senses come into contact with the sense objects, they are 5: sound, touch, taste, smell, etc. But when they trickle down to the mind, it becomes Sukhadukhas. They are created by the mind. Even these Sukhadukhas vanish when you go to sleep. When you go to sleep, both of them converge into the self. When you wake up, the mind is woken up. Mind is awakened. Senses are aroused. Then the whole process starts. You tell me where from life begins. The life of the day. Does it begin from the world or does it begin from yourself, from your sleep? And where does it end? In the sleep itself. So here we hold the key. Key for what? Key for what? Key for everything that you want in life for fulfillment. So he has put it very beautifully. Bhagavad Gita. Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va yadi va dukham sa yogi paramo mataha. In the whole life you have only Sukha and Dukha. Don't differentiate them. You think that I have Sukhadukhas. So the Sukhadukhas are different from me. This is the feeling that you have. Krishna and Bhagavad Gita want you to understand differently. What is that? Sukha is an experience. Generated by whom? Generated by me. I have Sukha Dukha. I create it. Dukha also because of my senses and mind I create. So both of them are my expressions. I don't know whether I am making myself clear. I am happy. Who is happy? Can happiness be without the subject I? Can unhappiness be without the subject I? When I am happy, it is my expression. When I am unhappy, it is my expression. Sukha and Dukha being your expression, why are you attributing to others? He or she caused me unhappiness and happiness. Why should you say so? Stop. Stop this nonsense. I am happy. I am unhappy. The happiness has proceeded from me. Unhappiness has proceeded from me. Both of them are my expressions. My expressions. In Sukha as well as in Dukha, I should not lose sight of the I. Atmaupamyena. I must equate the Sukha as my expression and equate the Dukha also as my expression. So, Sukha and Dukha see both alike myself, the self. Self-I is Sukha Dukha. Self-I is. Self-I is. Treat them as an expression of myself, expression of the self. You will find the Sukha Dukkhas start dissolving. disintegrating. And you will reach a state of transcendence. Transcendence. I am neither happy nor happy. You can maximum say, I am the source of happiness and unhappiness. So he says, Atma upamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna. He who is able to see everything as alike, everything as alike. Atma upamyena, considering everything to be similar to the self, identical with the self. And altogether, how many things are there? Only two sukhadukhas. Sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. That yogi is the superlative yogi. That yogi is the superlative yogi. Excellent, excellent. Who does not look for anything different from even sukhadukhas. Sukhadukhas also become for him the expression of the self, identical with the self. When you reach such a state of samya, evenness, equipoise, equanimity, you are considered to be the superb yogi. Superb yogi. What more do you want, my dear souls? The entire world produces only sukhadukhas. You have found the source of sukhadukhas, your own mind. And one moment before that, when you were asleep, you had neither sukha nor dukkha. But you were so contented that you never looked for anything else. You were quite happy and contented. You wake up and then say, I slept comfortably. I had nothing with me. Comfortably I slept. What more do you want? It is from that state, sukhadukhas, interactions, etc. arose. So in sukhadukhas, do not feel distance from the self. Distance from the self. Remain the self alone and self-I is both. That yogi is supreme. Now I will recite one verse from Yoga Vasishtha Ramayana and another and stop my talk. Antashunyo bahishunya shunya kumbhaiva ambare antapurno bahipurna purna kumbhaiva arnave. I spoke about it earlier also. I would like to repeat it. Remember this. This wonderful state is such that your mind becomes free of all kinds of taint, stress and strain. It becomes like a picture taken to the space. If you take it to the space, you will find inside there is nothing, outside also there is nothing. So you reach a wonderful state of nothingness in one sense. At the same time, it is a state of fullness and abundance. Bring the same picture, go to the sea, the mid-sea, fill it with sea water and drop it. What will be the situation? The situation will be inside and outside it is full. So you are full. In other words, you are not in any kind of an object contact. All the objects are outside there, but none of them can enter you. You only take an imprint of them. All the imprints are mind's imprint, subtle. The objects appear to be gross. They only appear. So grossness and solidity, objectivity, etc. are only notional, never factual. So you reach that stage. When you reach it, what happens? Sampurnam jagadevanandanavanam sarvepi kalpadrumaha gangam vari samasta vari nivaha punya samasta kriya vajah pragrita samskrita shrudishiro varanasi medini sarvavasthitirasya vastu vishaya drishte parabrahmani. This is the climax. I like this verse so much. I like it only to tell others. Sampurnam jagadevanandanavanam. The entire world becomes a Nandanavana. You know what it means? Heavenly garden. Heavenly garden. Don't think that heaven is somewhere else. It is your mind that is either heavenly or helly. Don't make the mind hellish. Make it heavenly. Sampurnam Jagadevanandanavanam Sarvebi Kalpadrumaha. All the trees are just like the celestial tree, the Kalpaka Vriksha. Gangam Vari Samastavari Nivaha. We don't search and look for a Ganga, a holy river. Ganga is very holy in India for all people. But it's only one river. Here he says, all flows of water, water flow of any place, anywhere, everything is as divine and as heavenly as Ganga. Punya, samasta, kriya, all the activities that you perform, your professional career, anything that you do, activities are residential, societal, official, religious, secular, etc. All the activities equally become virtuous, holy and noble. Vachaha, prakrita samskritaha. All the words that come out of your mouth, that you utter, all of them, whether cultured or uncultured, either you utter or others hear. Your utterance will be much less or nothing. But when you hear them, they appear to be spiritual and Vedanta Vakyas. Varanasi Medini. The entire earth becomes as holy, pure and purifying as Varanasi, Benares for us. Sarva Vasthidirasya Vastu Vishaya. Whatever you look at, whatever you see, whatever you smell, whatever you taste, whatever you touch. You touch. Whatever is ignited by fire, it becomes hot. Similarly, whatever you feel, you think, you touch, you smell, you sound, everything becomes Vastu Vishaya, Brahmic, Atmic. It becomes selfly, it becomes godly, it becomes divine. Drishte Parabrahmani. When your vision is taken to witness and realize the supreme reality, namely the self, the immortal, the imperishable self within your body. What a blessed state is this, my dear souls. All of you are born as heirs to this. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. Nobody can bequeath this wonderful enrichment for you. The parents cannot. The married partners cannot. The academic teachers cannot. The professional mentors cannot. If at all it can be bequeathed by anybody, it should be people like us. We are born and we have been living only for this, to tell the people about the supreme reality encased within their own body. So it's a great bequest. I would like you to tell your children, grandchildren, your neighbors, your friends and the others about what great participation you have had in the 3-day affair that we had, 3-day convention. If we are going to hold it again, many of you should take greater interest. I would like, I don't know what is the programmers in mind, I would like all of you to see who are the people behind this performance who struggled so hard. After all, it is to create a facility and an occasion to share the supreme wisdom with so many people as possible. All of them should be very grateful to them, and you should evaluate whatever you have gained or inherited as a legacy from this 3-day convention. And if at all we are going to have, we expect to have another convention next year. I told you already on the first day what was the plan. Finally, we will have a convention in India where so many people from the international world, I expect to bring all of them here. And there will be an occasion for it. We want to gift this Bhagavad Gita as a gift from India to the entire world countries. And all the country heads, particularly people who handle public administration, they should read this book and equip and enrich and empower themselves to handle the great task with the honesty, majesty, and magnificence it deserves. That is my idea. I am very happy that so many of you have participated in this 3-day convention, and you must be feeling greatly enriched. I mentally embrace all of you. I wish you. You know what is the wish that I have? All of you must have good and noble children born in your family and lineage. And all of them should love the family first, love the society equally. They must have faith in God, faith in the supreme reality, and everyone should strive hard to contribute to the GDP of their own country and the world, so that their life is beneficial from all angles. If this blessing is there, I think we will become a much better world. I am very happy. I again express my love, fondness, and blessings to all of you. Let us go to the next event and program.
Join our live event on the 10th, 11th and 12th of October 2020. Register at www.globalgeeta.org.